Welcome to the Know, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Gus.
So the SNES Classics are starting to arrive. We just got a shipment notification from my own. And of course, that means that some curious reviewers are starting to crack those things open and see what's inside. And guess what they're finding? An NES Classic.
Wait, it's the same thing? Like, is it a full production NES Classic that they put inside and then they just put the SNES
It's
shell
like
around
Russian
it?
nesting dolls.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. According to the folks at Digital Foundry, the guts of the SNES Classic are basically identical to its predecessor, which might also mean that the infamous supply shortages might be coming to an end.
Because they have all the stuff to make as many as they want of everything now, I suppose. So here's a little bit of background to catch you up to speed. The SNES Classic is the latest retro console from Nintendo. It features 21 classic games, including the never officially released Star Fox 2. It officially hits retailers tomorrow, but review copies have already been shipped. We got one last week. We've been having a blast with it. It's super tiny and it's cute and we're having fun. Anyway, Kotaku's Jason Schreier also gave the console lots of praise, saying, as both a collector's item and a regular addition to anyone's gaming rotation, it is superb.
Okay, now for the interesting part. The hardware experts at Digital Foundry did what they do and cracked the console open to see what was inside. And what they found was basically the exact same hardware that was in the NES Classic.
Yeah, apparently the processor, memory, and storage are all the same. They're sitting on the same board. They even noted that the two internal controller cables snake out in these same places too. Oh, and the main board is carved to fit the shell of an NES Classic, even though it's sitting in an SNES Classic shell.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
There's a number of implications. As your gamer put it, we can expect hackers to be looking to exploit the system in short order to add new games, exactly what happened with the NES Mini. And secondly, the use of what is essentially the same technology makes it much easier for Nintendo to resume NES Mini production.
Which they've already started talking about. All those recent comments from Nintendo about supply not being an issue this time around, a little bit of that, and then they said that they're going to bring back the NES Classic next year too. So if it's all made out of the same stuff, that makes a lot more sense. That makes it a lot easier. All they have to do is print some different shells.
As you might remember, last year's NES Classic was wildly popular, offering 30 games for $60, but there weren't that many to go around.
So
and they
most people ended up paying way more than $60 on eBay.
broke my heart. In all, Nintendo sold 2.3 million units before discontinuing production this year, basically saying that's all you're gonna get.
Yeah, so Nintendo of America President Reggie Fils-Aimé said that Nintendo was kind of caught off guard by the retro console's success. He said, "We didn't anticipate how incredible the response would be. Once we saw that response, we added shipments and extended the product for as long as we could to meet more of that consumer demand."
Bullshit.
Well, he did say that they had research saying that people didn't have a huge interest in retro consoles, which may actually have more to do with a lot of those kind of shitty third-party retro consoles you see sometimes where they're plasticky and they're cheap and they're just not great experiences, so people write them off.
Yeah,
whereas these
quality.
Right, whereas these being first party, you have a little bit more trust in them. The quality of the NES Classic was pretty good. Like I felt like a good little console, and so it was easier to just go for it.
Well, this time Nintendo's been swearing up and down that SNES Classics are going to be much more plentiful at retailers, maybe because they never stopped making them the whole time.
They were actually just printing them for this one.
Fils-Aimé even told fans they shouldn't pay more than the retail price and that there would be no need for scalpers. He told Financial Times that Nintendo has dramatically increased production of the SNES Classic. Again, they probably didn't stop making them.
That helps. We've actually been seeing a lot of indications that what he's saying is true, though. Retail watcher Wario64 on Twitter posted some screenshots of alleged inventory numbers for the SNES Classic at a few nationwide Best Buy locations. From the look of it, some stores will have hundreds of the system in stock. So good sign. Appears to be true at Walmart too, according to BrickSeek. A quick check of the Walmarts here in Austin showed that most stores will have dozens of SNES Classics in stock at the very least.
Other retailers like GameStop and ThinkGeek said they'll also have units available for shoppers who just walk in. And Toys R Us tweeted last night that shoppers should arrive early Friday morning to get an SNES Classic and help them get out of bankruptcy. Of course, this indicates that they too will have some available for walk-ins.
And Toys R Us was one of the stores as well that didn't take pre-orders, so their entire stock is going to walk-ins. If that's any indication, Nintendo's made a lot more of these SNES Classics than they did of the predecessor. Oh, and speaking of the NES Classic, we did note earlier, it's coming back too. Nintendo did say that the NES Classic will be returning next summer.
Next summer?
Next summer, yes. Maybe they'll just alternate them every other year now. They said in a release, fans have shown their unbridled enthusiasm for these Classic Edition systems, so Nintendo's working to put many more of them on store shelves. So you're gonna get your chance at one, Gus.
Unbridled enthusiasm.
And anger. And frustration, yes. Again, considering that it's basically the same hardware as the SNES Mini, kind of makes sense they'd be bringing it back.
This news is not a complete surprise. Ever since the NES Classic was released, there have been videos circulating of it being hacked to play games from other consoles. In a video from February, YouTuber Soulcatcher showed it playing Super Metroid for the SNES, Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis, Pitfall for the Atari 2600, and others.
So, NES Classic was always capable of more than it was actually doing. Maybe they'll do another run with different games. That would be very curious. Although I do think they nailed it with the lineup, although there are always more that we'd like to see. Also, though, it is worth noting, none of the software is all that taxing by today's hardware standards, so I don't know, it's not like Nintendo need to design a new hardware for the SNES Classic. It kind of makes sense that they reuse what they have. Some people online wondered why Nintendo was selling us the exact same piece of hardware for a second time, though. But as one NeoGAF poster put it, their SNES ROMs, I'm sure graphing calculators can run them by now.
What do you guys think of the discovery that SNES and NES Classics are basically the same hardware? Does it make it a ripoff? Do you even care? And let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I've seen some people saying that it's the same hardware, they're selling it for 20 bucks more, but what it comes down to is probably not the hardware. That's not the important thing, it's the software.
It's the software.
Yeah, we were talking about this just a little bit ago and how on the like on the eShop or Virtual Console, SNES games tend to go for like $5. So if you have 21 of those on this, it makes them a little bit under $4. So you save money by buying them by the dozens.
It's like Costco.
It's Costco for SNES. So let us know what you think, and for all your Nintendo news, be sure to like this video. If you're new around here, subscribe to the know.
As you might, like you said, print.
Print. They just got a 3D printer in the back there, just going one by one. That's why there was a supply shortage. They only had the one printer.
I'm glad you don't work for a factory.
Nintendo of President. What? Nintendo of President? Okay. Good job, Ashley.
I believe in you.
Yeah.